The man who was always busy. Reza was always busy, at least, that's what he told himself. From the moment he woke up, his day felt full. Notifications, messages, deadlines, half-finished tasks. His phone alarm rang at 7 a.m., and by 7:05 he was already scrolling. News, social media, random videos. Just 5 minutes, he would say. 40 minutes later, he rushed out of bed. Already behind, his days followed the same pattern. He answered emails while thinking about meetings. He attended meetings while worrying about unfinished work. He started projects but rarely completed them without interruption. By night, he felt exhausted, but when he asked himself, "What did I actually finish today?" the answer was uncomfortable, very little. He was busy, but not productive. One evening, after missing an important deadline, his manager said something simple but sharp. "You don't have a time problem. You have a focus problem." That sentence stayed in his mind all night. Reza always believed time was the enemy. There were never enough hours. Successful people must have more time, he thought. More energy, more discipline. But what if the problem wasn't time? What if it was how he treated it? The next morning, instead of grabbing his phone immediately, he sat on his bed and did something unusual. He asked himself one question: if today had only 3 important hours, what would I protect? The question felt strange. 3 hours out of 24. But he tried it. He chose one critical task. Not 5. Not 10. Just one, a report he had delayed for weeks. He decided those first 3 hours of the day would belong to that task. No messages. No notifications. No multitasking. At 8 a.m., he sat at his desk. He turned his phone face down. He closed unnecessary tabs. For the first 10 minutes, his mind resisted. It wanted stimulation. It wanted distraction. It wanted the comfort of checking something quick. But he stayed. Minute by minute, something changed. His thoughts became clearer. He entered a rhythm. Sentences formed faster. Ideas connected more smoothly. By 10:30 a.m., he had completed more of the report than he had in the previous 2 weeks combined. He leaned back in his chair, surprised. The task wasn't impossible. It had only been fragmented. For the first time, he realized something powerful. Time doesn't disappear, attention does. Every notification had stolen a small piece of his focus. Every interruption had forced his brain to restart. And restarting costs energy. He wasn't bad at managing time. He was bad at defending it. That day, he finished the report before lunch, not because he worked longer, but because he worked undisturbed. When he left the office that evening, he didn't feel drained. He felt in control. It was a small victory, but it changed something inside him. He began to see time differently, not as a river dragging him forward, but as blocks he could shape. protect, design, and that shift marked the beginning of something bigger, because managing time is not about squeezing more into your day. It's about deciding what deserves your life, and Rezo was about to learn that lesson deeply. This was only the beginning. The next morning, Reza almost ruined everything. His alarm rang. His hand moved automatically toward his phone. The old reflex. Scroll first. Think later. His thumb hovered over the screen, then he stopped. He remembered how yesterday felt. Clear. Controlled. Light. That feeling was rare, and he didn't want to lose it. Instead of opening social media, he opened a blank notebook. He wrote one sentence at the top of the page. If I only win one thing today, what should it be? Not 10 things. 1. He chose a presentation he had been postponing. Important. Slightly intimidating. Easy to avoid. He blocked 2 hours in his calendar. No meetings. No calls. Just deep work. At 9 a.m., he started. The first 20 minutes were uncomfortable again. His brain kept searching for escape routes. A quick email. A small check-in. Something easy. He noticed something interesting. Distraction wasn't random. It appeared exactly when the work became mentally demanding. That realization changed the game. It wasn't that he felt like checking his phone. It was that his brain wanted relief from effort. So instead of giving in, he leaned into the discomfort. He simplified the task, not build the entire presentation, just outline the structure, title, problem, impact, solution. That was it. Once the structure appeared, the pressure decreased. The blank page wasn't empty anymore. It had direction, and hour passed faster than he expected. When he finally checked the time, he was surprised. He hadn't looked at his phone once, not because he forced himself aggressively, but because he was absorbed. And absorption made time disappear in the right way. Around noon, a colleague walked by and said, "You look calm today." Calm? No one had used that word to describe him at work before. Usually he looked rushed, reactive, slightly stressed. Now he looked focused. That small comment confirmed something. Managing time is visible. People can feel when you are scattered, and they can feel when you are centered. But the real lesson came later that week. An unexpected issue appeared in one of his projects. Urgent emails started arriving. Messages popped up. Requests came from different directions. Old Reza would have reacted instantly, reply to everything, jump between tasks, try to fix all problems at once. New Reza paused. He asked himself, what truly requires my attention right now? Not what is loud, not what is urgent for others, what is essential. He listed the problems quickly. One was critical. The others were noise disguised as urgency. He handled the critical one first, fully, without interruption. Only after it was resolved did he move to the next. Something strange happened. Even though the day was chaotic, he didn't feel overwhelmed. because he was choosing his focus instead of surrendering it. That evening, sitting alone at his desk, understood a deeper truth. Time management is not about managing hours. It is about managing decisions. Every time you say yes to one thing, you silently say no to something else. Before, he said yes to everything: notifications, small requests, low impact tasks. Now he was learning to say no, not aggressively, strategically. He started setting small boundaries. No phone during the first hour of the day. No email after 8 p.m. No meetings without clear purpose. At first, it felt uncomfortable, almost selfish. But then he noticed something powerful. His results improved, not slightly, significantly. Tasks finished faster. Mistakes decreased. Even his evenings felt longer. Because when your workday has direction, your free time feels earned. One night, while walking home, he asked himself something honest. How many years have I lived reacting instead of deciding? The answer made him uncomfortable. Too many. But instead of regret, he felt motivation. Because if time had been slipping away unconsciously, it could now be shaped consciously. He was no longer chasing hours, he was directing them, and that shift was only getting started. A week passed. Something subtle began to change inside Reza. He was no longer measuring his days by how tired he felt. He was measuring them by what actually moved forward. Before, exhaustion felt like proof of effort. Now, completion felt like proof of direction. But the deeper lesson arrived on a quiet Sunday afternoon. He sat at his kitchen table with a cup of tea and decided to review his week. Not emotionally, not dramatically, objectively. He wrote down everything he had done in the past 7 days. Meetings, reports, small tasks, emails, calls. Then he circled the ones that truly mattered. There were fewer than he expected. So much motion, so little impact. That realization hit hard. He wasn't losing time because he was lazy. He was losing time because he treated everything as equal. And not everything is equal. Some tasks move your life. Some tasks only maintain it. Some tasks are pure noise. For the first time, he categorized his work into 3 levels: critical, important, optional. Critical tasks were few. Important tasks were manageable. Optional tasks were endless. And optional tasks had been quietly stealing his days. The next Monday, he changed one rule: critical work first. Always. Before emails, before chats, before small favors, before everything. The first few days felt uncomfortable. He delayed responding to messages. He declined unnecessary meetings. He postponed low-value requests. At first, guilt appeared. What if they think I'm uncooperative? What if I miss something? But something else appeared too. Momentum. Because once he finished a critical task early in the day, everything else felt lighter. His confidence increased. And confidence reduces hesitation. Then came a bigger challenge. A major project landed on his desk. Complex. Multi-layered. Long-term. Old Reza would have felt overwhelmed instantly. The size alone would have drained him. This time, he did something different. He broke the project into time blocks instead of random effort. Not work on it when I can, but Tuesday 9 to 11, Thursday 10 to 12, Saturday review, scheduled, protected, non-negotiable. By assigning time deliberately, the project stopped feeling heavy. It became predictable, and predictability reduces stress. Weeks later, he noticed something powerful. Deadlines no longer surprised him because he had already made space for them. He was no longer reacting to time. He was shaping it in advance. But the real transformation happened one evening when a friend invited him out last minute. Before, he would have said yes automatically, even if it disrupted his work, even if it cut into his rest, even if it created chaos the next day. This time, he checked his calendar. He had a deep work session planned early the next morning. Instead of canceling his commitment to himself, he said something simple. Not tonight. Let's plan for tomorrow. It felt small, but it wasn't. For the first time, he respected his own time as much as he respected others, and that changed how others treated it too. People began scheduling properly. Meetings became clearer. Requests became more intentional. When you treat your time as valuable, the world follows. Months passed. The difference became undeniable. Reza was no longer busy. He was effective. He finished projects earlier. He left work on time more often. He had evenings where he actually rested instead of recovering from chaos. One night, while organizing his desk, he realized something almost ironic. He didn't need more hours in a day. He needed fewer leaks. Time leaks through distractions, through unclear priorities, through automatic yes, through constant switching. Once he sealed those leaks, something amazing happened. His life felt bigger, not because time increased, but because waste decreased. And that is the secret most people miss. Time management is not about squeezing more into your schedule. It is about removing what should never have been there. Reza once believed success belonged to those who worked longer. Now he understood. It belongs to those who decide better. And this clarity was only opening the next level of growth with time. Reza stopped chasing productivity tricks. No new apps. No complicated systems. Just clarity. Every night before sleeping, he began asking himself 3 questions. What mattered today? What wasted my energy? What deserves tomorrow? Those questions were simple, but they forced honesty. One evening, he realized something uncomfortable. He was still spending almost an hour a day in micro-distractions. 5 minutes here, 7 minutes there. Quick checks that felt harmless. But added together, they were stealing entire days each month. So he did something radical. He created friction. He removed social apps from his phone. He logged out of unnecessary platforms. He turned off non-essential notifications. Not because he lacked discipline, but because he understood something deeper. Environment beats willpower. If distraction is one tap away, you will tap. If it is inconvenient, you pause. And that pause is powerful. The first week felt strange, quiet, almost empty. He didn't realize how noisy his mental space had been until it became silent. And in that silence, his thinking sharpened. He began planning his weeks instead of just reacting to them. Sunday evenings became strategic. He mapped his 3 most important goals, not 23. He blocked time for them first. Then everything else adjusted around them. Gradually, something else changed. His stress level dropped, not because he had less to do, but because he knew when he would do it. Uncertainty is heavy. Structure is calming. One afternoon, during a particularly intense month, a colleague asked him how he was handling everything without burning out. Reza thought for a moment. "I don't handle everything," he said. "I handle what matters." That was the shift. He stopped confusing activity with achievement. He stopped measuring success by how full his calendar looked. He measured it by meaningful progress. Then came a personal challenge, a family responsibility that required time and attention. Old Reza would have felt trapped. How will I fit this in? Now he asked a different question. What can I remove? Instead of squeezing more into his life, he removed low-impact tasks. He delegated. He delayed. He declined. And suddenly, space appeared. He learned a truth most people resist. You don't find time. You create it. By choosing. By cutting. By deciding. Months turned into a year. The transformation was visible. Reza was promoted, not because he worked longer hours, but because he delivered consistently. He was calm under pressure, reliable with deadlines, clear in priorities. People trusted him, but the biggest reward was not external, it was internal. He no longer ended his days wondering where the hours went. He knew. He could trace them. He could explain them. He owned them. One quiet night, sitting alone with his notebook, he wrote something that summarized his journey. Time is not managed. It is honored. When you honor time, you don't waste it casually. You don't give it away without thought. You don't let it slip through unconscious habits. You treat it like life itself, because it is. Reza once believed he needed more hours. Now he understood. He needed more intention. And intention turned chaos into structure. Structure turned stress into focus. Focus turned effort into progress. If there is one lesson in his story, it is this. If you don't decide what matters, the world will decide for you. If you don't protect your hours, they will disappear. If you don't control your attention, something else will. Time is not your enemy. Indecision is. Distraction is. Automatic living is. The moment you pause and choose deliberately, everything changes. And once you feel what true control over your time is like, you will never want to go back to being busy again. As Reza grew more intentional with his time, something unexpected happened. He started seeing time everywhere, not on clocks, in choices, in conversations that dragged without purpose, in tasks that felt urgent but changed nothing, in habits that quietly shaped his future. He realized time management was never about schedules. It was about identity. Who are you becoming with the hours you spend? That question unsettled him, because managing time well didn't just improve productivity. It exposed priorities. He began auditing not just his work, but his life. How many hours went to growth? How many to maintenance? How many to pure escape? The numbers told a story. He adjusted again. He replaced random evening scrolling with reading. He replaced passive weekends with intentional rest. He replaced vague goals with defined milestones. Not extreme changes, small ones, but small shifts repeated daily create massive outcomes. One day, a younger coworker approached him. "You always seem in control. How do you manage your time like this?" Reza smiled slightly. He remembered the chaotic version of himself. "I stopped letting small things decide my day," he said. That was the core. Most people lose their lives in small things, small distractions, small delays, small yeses that should have been no. He had learned to pause before agreeing, to think before reacting, to schedule before promising. But the final lesson came during a difficult season. A major project failed. Not completely, but enough to hurt. Old Reza would have spiraled, stayed late every night, panicked, overworked. This time, he stepped back. He reviewed what happened, what was within his control, what wasn't, what deserved correction, what deserved acceptance. He allocated time to fix the real issues. He refused to waste hours on blame. And that's when he understood the deepest truth of all. Managing time is managing emotion. If panic controls you, time disappears. If clarity guides you, time expands. Under pressure, he protected his mornings. He kept his deep work blocks sacred. He maintained sleep. He exercised, not because he had extra time, but because he understood something powerful. Energy multiplies time. A tired mind wastes hours. A focused mind compresses them. Slowly, the project recovered. Not perfectly, but steadily. And Reza didn't burn out in the process. That was the real victory. Years later, when people described him, they didn't say he was busy. They said he was disciplined. They said he was calm. They said he was reliable. But if you asked him privately what changed his life, he would answer simply, "I started choosing. Choosing what to do. Choosing what to ignore. Choosing when to stop. Choosing when to rest. Choosing when to say no." Time had never been the enemy. Unconscious living had been. If you feel constantly busy but never ahead, pause. Look at your day honestly. What deserves your best energy? What is just noise? What can be removed? You do not need more hours. You need fewer leaks. Protect your mornings. Define your top 3 priorities. Schedule what matters before others schedule you. Reduce distractions. Respect your energy. And most importantly, remember this. Time is your life in visible form. Every hour spent is a piece of you invested somewhere. Invest it intentionally, because once a day is gone, it does not negotiate. Reza's life didn't change overnight. It changed the moment he stopped reacting and started deciding. And that moment is available to anyone, including you. Control your time. Control your direction. Control your future. And never confuse being busy with moving forward.